Welcome to Tunnel Vision. I'm Riley Sager. He's Connor Morrissette. Tunnel Vision brought to you by USCfootball.com. We are without our leader, Ryan Abraham, today. Feel better, Ryan. He's a little bit under the weather. But we're going to take over the show for today. Hopefully, we can handle ourselves. We got this, Connor.
We do, Riley. Good to see you. It's like instant analysis expanded. We
Yep.
talked about the game after the game directly last night when the sun went down late afternoon, and now here we are Sunday night. Let's give some more thoughts, and if you want to call in, 512-4TUNNEL, leave your questions in the chat, Facebook messages, we take those too. Anything you want to talk about, just the two of us today, so we'll happily deal with anything you got.
Yep, we had all the technical difficulties worked out before. Now we're live, like Connor said. Call in, leave your questions, Facebook or YouTube. I can put the Facebook ones up on the screen. YouTube, I'll go through as well and just star them, and we'll try to get to them at the end of the show. So let us know how you're feeling. If you have anything to ask, we will do our best to get to it. And call in. Those are always fun. Keeps it engaging. We can talk to you live. But today, USC, we are recapping their win 26-21 against Iowa in the rain. It was quite the game, Connor. USC defense shut out Iowa in the second half. USC was down 21-10 going into halftime, and then they come back 26-21. So an incredible comeback win. Coach Riley called it a culture win. We'll get into all of that. But Connor, give me one word to describe this game.
One word.
Yes.
Didn't expect you to ask me that. Let me think. Progress. That's
Okay.
probably the word that sticks out to me. The fact that USC has won 3 games in a row now against the classic Big Ten teams, Nebraska, Northwestern, Iowa teams that are known for their defense, known for running the ball, games that, frankly, USC didn't win last year. So I start with progress. And I think, Riley, that this game, it just builds a lot of evidence in what Lincoln Riley is building, and that has been absent the last 2 seasons. So it's a massive win in the big picture. And then let's talk about the smaller picture as well. USC goes to Oregon this week, and it's a de facto playoff game almost, where if USC wins that one, the whole narrative is changed, and they have a great opportunity if they can win one more against UCLA to make the program's first college football playoff potentially. I know the team is in the week-to-week mode, so we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but now it's Oregon week all of a sudden, and they have a chance, if they win this game, to have a special season. And it's not quite a special season. They still have some work to do, but it's trending in the right direction. And yeah, when you ask me that, I say progress, but this was a huge win for Lincoln Riley because it builds evidence in what he is building. The fact that Iowa, they didn't do whatever they wanted in the first half on offense, but they had a relatively easy time compared to what we're used to seeing from them. And then for USC to totally flip the script defensively and respond, I felt like USC's offense was always going to be able to score some points. You just can't keep that team down at home. And then the big question was, will they be able to respond defensively? And they did with some key players down. That was significant and just a step in the right direction, a huge win for the team. And I was very positive after the game on instant analysis, and that continues to be my feeling. If at the beginning of the year you said USC was going to be 8-2 heading into Oregon, I think everyone would have taken that.
I'm going to go proof. I'll keep it with the alliteration, proof of what USC can do. We talked about this on instant analysis. This is an example that they can come back. We said Oregon, you don't want to be down 2 scores, but it's just giving them, we have games that we've come back from, and if we can do it then, why can't we do it now? It seems like this Oregon game has been on the horizon for a bit now, but like you said, the team, when we talk to them in practice after games, they're like 1-week seasons. Whatever's ahead of them, that's what they're focusing on. So, like you said, Oregon week, now it's time to focus on Oregon. But for us, we got a lot to recap. So, do you have a play of the game? Or do you want to start on which side of the ball?
I thought there were 2 plays of the game, both on defense. The first one, Jakeem Stewart gets the interception after Marcellus Williams has some nice coverage on the 3rd down play in Iowa territory. Mark Gronowski rolls to his right, makes the throw. Marcellus Williams, I don't think got a hand on the ball, but he affected the play enough to where it tipped off of the Iowa receiver's knee, bounced right up into the air, and then Jakeem Stewart in the right place at the right time gets the interception, returns it 4 yards, and that sets up USC's go-ahead touchdown, and the Trojans from there never looked back on the offensive side of the ball. And then defensively, the fourth down when Iowa was moving the ball, had a chance to potentially take a lead late in that game, their last possession. And it's a game of inches, Riley, where Kennedy Urlacher forces the receiver out of bounds by a big toe, by a little toe, by a centimeter, whatever you want to call it, to give USC the possession back, and then the Trojans were able to run out the clock. But I mentioned 3 players in those plays of the game, and it's Marcellus Williams, a second-year corner, it's Jakeem Stewart, a first-year defensive lineman, and it's Kennedy Urlacher, a second year in college football, but first year at USC safety. And the story I wrote after this game was about the unsung heroes. And Marcellus Williams is a starter. Jakeem Stewart plays a lot. Kennedy Urlacher, more of an unsung hero. But again, if you go back to the beginning of the season, and we're talking about USC making key plays in November to keep their college football playoff hopes alive, Marcellus Williams, Kennedy Urlacher, Jakeem Stewart. Stewart's probably on the list, but Marcellus Williams, we thought maybe Chasen Johnson would emerge as a starting cornerback, and he goes down and Williams takes it. My point is, you're getting key contributions from guys who we didn't necessarily expect, and that's the sign of a program that's in a healthy position. That's the sign of progress, like I talked about earlier, and it's just a sign of things going in the right direction, and the sign of development too, where the coaching staff, they've had these guys now for a year, all of them, Marcellus Williams 2 years, and they're getting better. Mm-hmm. And last year, we didn't really see USC get that much better as the year went on. That's certainly happening now. I give the staff a lot of credit. But those are my 2 plays of the game. I don't know if you had another one. Makai Lemon had a bunch too, but I thought defensively those were 2 key ones.
Yeah, well, Kennedy Urlacher, that breakup, I had friends text me. They're like, if you're at the game, you have no idea how close that was, because they were just watching it on the replay, and was that guy's foot in, out? But then, was it that led to the Brian Jackson touchdown? Or that was the
Jakeem Stewart one. And Jackson had 2 touchdowns to his credit, so the one that put USC ahead was after the interception.
Okay, yeah, and that was his first multi-touchdown game of his career.
I believe so.
Yeah, and I think he only had 4 carries the whole game, but he
made him count.
Yeah, he came in when they needed him, and he made them count. So I think that's just a testament to, you don't have to have all these yards. You don't have to have 20 carries on the ball. Like, you can still make a difference, and he's certainly someone that did.
Absolutely. We do have our first 2 callers of the night, Riley. Are you good with going to the first caller?
All right, let's hear it.
Do you have to hit the button there? Yes. Okay, we have Kelly. And Kelly, hello. You are on Tunnel Vision right now. How's it going?
Hey, Connor and Rod. This is Kelly from Georgia.
Hello.
Hello. Thanks for calling in.
So I want to call in and give a shout-out to the most important key to the game, and that is the USC Trojan fans Saturday. Because most of the time on a 12:30 kick, the fans are hard to get there. But this Saturday was even different because it was raining and a downpour. And they showed up, hung around, even when we got down, and they were there for the whole game. And I just got to give it to the fans pouring down in the rain that they just stuck it out and stayed behind the Trojans the whole game. Now, Connor, I got a question for you.
Let's hear it.
When is the last, if you can remember, the last rain game at the Coliseum, was that 2016 against Notre Dame?
Yes, that was the last rain game. You're correct.
That was the last time it rained for a game. So, that was huge that we played as good as we did in that game. And like you said, with that interception that turned the game around, that's the kind of things that we have to get lucky with. And the ball fell for us, and we got those interceptions. And just like when Makai got that fumble right when King Miller dropped it, those are the kind of plays that change games. And I think that's just what changed the game for USC this Saturday. And one other question I got for you, Connor.
Yep.
Lemon has got to be top 3 for Biletnikoff. Don't you think so?
Thank you for the call. Absolutely. I think he's in the top 3. I would have to do a little bit of a deeper dive on who else would be in the mix right now. I know Texas A&M has that great receiver, and Jeremiah Smith is doing what he does at Ohio State, but Makai Lemon has been exceptional. And We had a bunch of points to that call, so let's talk about the fans too, Riley. I felt like the fan support in this game, kind of as expected and kind of like we saw with USC, was a little slow. But then in the second half, that place was loud. All those guys from I think they were from a fraternity who had the shirts off and were raving them. That brought a lot of energy. And just overall, I do feel like the fan support really showed up in that game, and it culminated in USC coming back and winning. So I give a lot of credit to the fans. Early on, I was a little bit disappointed, but it's a late arriving crowd. It's early in the afternoon. You got to give the fans credit when they eventually do show up. And in that second half, they made a huge difference, and USC outscored Iowa 16-0. That had a major part in it. So I definitely agree that the fan support was great and made a huge difference.
Yeah. I think attendance was recorded at 65,000, which...
Well, those are tickets given out. So it's just kind of not true.
So do they count? Like when you scan into the
No,
stadium?
it used to be that way,
okay.
But apparently I think now they count tickets distributed. So if you don't show up, it doesn't really matter. But that's just a way to make it look better than it is. But we don't need to be talking about that right now because the fan support was great, and it was loud in there for sure. It
was really loud, and I think if you're going to a game in the rain, you just have to fully embrace it. Like, those
exactly. People did.
Yeah, they weren't going there afraid of getting wet or being in the rain for a couple hours. Like, they knew what they were getting. They knew what to expect. They had the ponchos. The stadium was selling them in the concourse. Like, people were ready. They were ready to embrace the elements, and they just wanted to see a good game of football, and that is what they got.
Absolutely. And then in the second half, when the rain let up for a little bit in the third quarter, USC made the most of that with, I think they got 9 points in that third quarter, and that ended up sparking that comeback. So in my game story, I wrote about how when it was really raining, USC struggled, and then it cleared up, and that opened the door for them, and then it came down again in the fourth quarter, but they held on. I don't know about you, Riley. On that last Iowa drive, yes, was I a little nervous? Maybe, but like if that was last year, I'm thinking Iowa's scoring for sure and USC's going to lose. I didn't think that Nebraska was going to score on their final drive. They didn't. And I'll be completely honest with you. The way that second half was going, if Iowa punched in a touchdown there to win, I would have just been really surprised at that. I felt like USC's defense had the upper hand in the whole second half because they did. And even though Iowa had some momentum, I never really thought, okay, they're really in trouble here. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if that last catch is a catch and Kennedy Urlacher doesn't push the receiver out of bounds, that changes the equation. But I am a lot more confident in what I've seen from USC's defense, especially in the second half these last 3 weeks than last year, and that's another sign of progress.
Yeah, that's just one element to compare last year to this year. It's like, stats aside, like you can see how the team is responding in terms of energy. You go into halftime, you go into the locker room, you're down 21-10, and they pull it off. It's pouring rain. You're going up against Iowa, who loves to run the ball. You knew that going into the game. You knew what their game plan was going to be. They did have some passes that led to the first touchdown for them in the first half. But like they just switched it around. And props to them. Eric Gentry said after the game, he's like, I wish you guys were in the locker room so you could see our culture. You could see what's going on. And whatever happens in that locker room, I don't know what they're saying in there. We're not there, but they really switched it around, and they came out in the second half, and that's the third straight game that they've really, really put the pedal to the metal.
It sounded like they acknowledged that they didn't play well, but no one panicked. It was like, okay, let's just start playing better. So I don't know exactly what was said. Lincoln Riley in the post-game press conference talked about he brought the team up, so maybe right away he got everyone in that locker room to put their hand in the air, and Riley probably gave a quick speech and just said, hey, we know we're not playing right now up to our standard. Let's get back to that. And I think if I had to guess, that's what it was like. I'm sure there was some colorful language as well, but I give the staff a lot of credit because that standard is hard to reach, and they've shown that they do play up to a certain standard. It might not always be the prettiest game, but in these last 3 weeks, especially on defense, USC has a standard, and they've been either at it or above it for the majority of these games, and that's why they're 3-0. We have two other callers here. I think this is Thomas in Malibu who wants to talk about the expectations and the road forward. Hello, you are on television.
Hey, good evening. Yes, this is Thomas Malibu. Hope you guys are both doing well.
Thanks, Thomas.
Good show. A couple of quick questions for you. I want to make sure that I'm not seeing things the wrong way. I mean, Connor, I love calling you Connor Hyde to give you a hard time because I know you and Harvey are both see USC the same way sometimes. But we're 8-2 right now. Okay, I think we're going to win Saturday up in Oregon. Okay, but if the Trojans go up there and they play well, and we end the season at 9-3, get lucky and win a bowl game, get to 10-3. Let's not forget the big picture. We have the number one recruiting class going into the season. One of the top goals was to maintain that number one recruiting class. And everyone agreed 8-4, it'd be really shaky. 7-5, even shakier to keep that recruiting class. So let's keep that in mind. Second of all, my dear Trojans on the peristyle, can we once enjoy the ride? Can we once watch a game for more than 10 minutes before we start posting about how bad Lincoln Riley is, how bad Denton Len is? I mean, can we watch a game? Let's not forget. I want to help some of my fellow Trojans out there. For the last 3 games, Denton Len's defense has given up a whopping 6 points. So you may want to take a deep breath just for a second. Am I happy with the way they scored in the first half, Iowa going down there? No. But you know what? They came out, they made the adjustments, whatever they did worked. Quite frankly, I don't care what they did, but let's give credit where credit is due. So let's enjoy the ride. I still say Trojans over Oregon on Saturday. But regardless, we finish up 9-3, 10-3. I don't care who you are. It's a fabulous season. Let's get that recruiting class in here, and then let's make another step next year. So fight on from Malibu, and thank you for a great show.
Thank you, Thomas. Great
Thank
call. Agree with a lot of that. I think he nailed it, and especially the stuff with the fans. Like, USC didn't play a good first half, but they were only down 11 points. They were at home. They've been really good at home under Lincoln Riley for the most part. That game was still very much in the balance, and then USC came back and won. So I get it. It's doom and gloom in the first half when things aren't going well. When the defense gets off to a slow start, it's frustrating. But I learned my lesson last year in the bowl game. I thought USC was dead in that third quarter against A&M. That might have been after Maeva either threw an interception or had that backwards pass, and I was like, the season's over. Now focus on the portal. And then they came back and won. So I am not ruling this team out with anything. But, yeah, so I agree with that. And then the first part of the call, which I again, thought was a good one. Thank you, Thomas. So keeping the recruiting class in check or just in place is significant, and USC getting to 8-2, I think, has a great chance of making that a reality. Maybe they lose 1 or 2 guys just because recruiting's crazy, but I do think the meat and potatoes of that class isn't going anywhere, and they still have everything to play ahead of them. So if they beat Oregon like Thomas thinks, then of course the season is a major success. But even if they lose that game, they finish 9-3, 9-4, 10-3, then the season is still a big success to me. And in the big picture, it's huge. One thing I did want to talk about, I thought this win was huge for Lincoln Riley because, like I talked about earlier, it builds evidence and it shows progress. But I really think that a couple weeks from now, whenever the season's over, maybe in that middle part of December when USC is preparing for a bowl game or potentially the playoff, and you have time to reflect back on this year. 2 years ago wasn't what USC hoped for, but this year unquestionably was after you beat Iowa to get to 8-2. That is progress. And when Riley is talking with Jen Cohen and just talking with the coaches, it's like, look at what we've accomplished. We are clearly building something, and we have heard some quiet whispers about Riley maybe not saying no to other potential opportunities out there. So that, of course, at this point would be a tough blow for USC, of course, when this head coach is building something and looks to be on the right path. So keeping him around is obviously huge. And this Iowa game, just for me, I've been very critical of Riley and what he's done at USC the last 2 seasons just because it wasn't very good. But now, you're building something, and say they do make the playoff. In an ideal world, they go 10-2 and they make it. I think a contract extension, even though he has this crazy deal, I think that would be warranted, getting them into the playoff for the first time in program history. Get him on par with Cignetti. Show that, hey, you believed in us. You did what we really didn't expect to do this year and made the playoff. We're going to reward you. So it's crazy how much the pendulum can swing, where after they lose to Notre Dame, it's like, oh, if they lose a few more games, maybe it's going to go in the other direction. Now, if they win out and he makes the playoff, I think it would be smart if USC extended him, which is, I never thought in a million years I'd be saying that. So the sign of progress that Thomas mentioned is huge, and that's why these games are so fun. One win here or there can just change the whole equation. And this, to me, was a equation-changing game. Yes, they were favored, but you lose that game, then the doubts start to creep in, and I don't know. Now they go 1-1 to end the year, 9-3. That's a hell of a regular season. They go 10-2. It's above what everyone expected, and I think those are probably the only options. They go 8-4. That would be disappointing, but UCLA is in a tough place.
Yeah, going into the season, everyone has their expectations. If you're a USC fan, you're hoping for that 9-3, 10-2. For me, I saw it as a bridge year. With the recruiting class next year, it's like you said, you have to do what you need to do to maintain that, to hold on to it. That requires winning. It doesn't mean going 10-2 necessarily, but you have to do enough. And when you're in season, you're looking at one game at a time, but every game is part of the season, and every season is part of this bigger goal that Coach Riley and the entire staff and Jen Cohen are looking toward. They're not going season by season. They have a long-term plan, and they were just doing, with all of the staff changes in the past year, they're doing the long-term changes to reach that goal. And I think this season, the biggest thing is being good enough to prove to those recruits that this is where they want to be and this is why they committed.
And I hope as time goes on, like USC, I want to stay in the moment, but just thinking big picture for a second, like they're set up for success, especially next year. And say Jade Mayava comes back. I know Hassan Longstreet is that new quarterback and the 5-star, and I'm excited about him too, but Mayava's a proven thing. If you can get him in the fold next year, like here we go, then it's playoff or bust, and they're clearly building towards having a potentially great season next year, and they could still have one this year. Like the evidence is there, and for Riley to potentially be entertaining other options, I hope that's all smoke and that's not the truth, because for the first time, like last year, I would get it. Okay, maybe he's looking somewhere else. Not sure he can win at USC. He's winning at USC now. And I just hope that whatever's going on behind the scenes, he's happy and the administration is happy, because winning 3 games in a row to get to 8-2, USC's going to have a successful season now no matter what. That's progress. You want to keep this guy around now, and I wasn't always sold on him. Now I am. And one win against Iowa in that fashion, after what they've done the previous 2 weeks, getting to a 3-game win streak, winning these games against Big Ten teams that they wouldn't have won last year, that's enough for me to be all in.
Well said, Connor.
Thank you. Do you want to go to another call?
Yeah, I was going to ask, do we have any more?
We do. We have Mitch in New Jersey. Mitch,
all right.
Hello. You are on Tunnel Vision right now. How's it going, Mitch?
Good, Connor. Right, how you guys doing? Fight on.
Good.
Great show. Great game. I think it's a season success. I'm happy with it. I'm trying to look at the house money. I think we win the next 2 games. They got to put us in because we're in the best conference. I want to say Makai, he's like a mover, Electrolux. I'm sure you know what those 2 gadgets are. It's not fun, but he catches everything. And I think he's had a better year, at least PR-wise, and maybe I'm covering the last 2 games than, say, Hunter. The reason why Hunter got the Heisman last year, I think a lot, because he played 2 positions. It's going to go to, I didn't go to Fernando Mendoza. And I was ticked off. I followed him because I thought he was good at Cal. And when I saw he left for Indiana because Cal doesn't have money or something like that, which I don't know how to believe, because they have another quarterback now. Too bad, that would have been great, but he went to Indiana, and I think Indiana has a very good chance of winning the whole this year. Anybody beat Ohio State, please. But Makai Lemon's okay. I think Makai, Mayava, and Lane are leaving. But, and these wins holds the recruiting class, then I'm not worried next year. But we'll just play these 2 games, see where it goes. It's starting to be a real good season. Our defense is really turning around. I think our offense is going to win the next 2 games. I love it. And one more thing, I think our defensive line is playing a little better. I think we've got some pros I like. Number 97, I can't say his name, but Crawford. And also, I want to see more Stewart in there, too. And Tompkins. I really like guys. We have a good rotation.
Yeah, thank you, Mitch. Appreciate the call. They do have a good rotation, and I do want to see a little bit more from the edge rushers, just in general, but I agree. Right now, it's hard to nitpick too much. You want to get better with the slow starts defensively, but very, very impressive win in just the fashion that they did. And then on Makai Lemon, I asked Ryan after, I was like, should we be talking about him in the Heisman race maybe? But I think he's probably just one step below that because of the 2 games he had this year against Notre Dame and Nebraska where he just wasn't himself. You got to be pretty consistent, and it seems like a 2-horse race right now with Mendoza and Sayin at Indiana and Ohio State. But, I mean, the Biletnikoff, he's certainly in play for that, and he's just been phenomenal. The catches that he had yesterday, Riley, were exceptional, and I'm just really enjoying watching this guy play. I want him on my New England Patriots in the NFL next year. That's how good he is. The other thing Mitch talked about, I mentioned Lemon leaving, Maeva leaving, and Lane leaving. I think Lemon leaving is for sure. And then the other 2 guys, I think they could go either way. So Chad Bowden, what he wants to do is retain the top players on USC who are making those decisions, kind of like what Kamari Ramsey did this past season when he was weighing the NFL or coming back. He ends up coming back. I know that's the main goal for Bowden, not the portal, not the high school recruiting. He wants to retain the best players on USC. So let's see when those guys sit down with him, what those conversations are like and what those decisions are. But again, we're getting ahead of ourselves. USC still has 2 regular season games left, and we have a lot of time to have those conversations in December.
Yeah, after yesterday's game, Makai Lemon now at 1,090 receiving yards for the season, and it just seems every time he's going up for a catch, you're not worrying, oh, I hope he gets this. It's like an
he's getting it.
Like you just know because he's shown you over and over and over that he is the guy that is going to catch that. And you may be surprised sometimes, but I feel like now it's just been a standard for him. And his teammates have said that throughout practice these past couple months, just like you expect it. Like he and Jacoby Lane, like in practice, you see those insane catches, Jacoby Lane with his, one-handers. But it's like they expect that from them. And I think sometimes you just have to take a moment and realize like what you're watching and how insane they are.
And make no mistake, the reason that USC was still in the game against Iowa, despite being down 11 points in the second half, it's because of those 3 guys, first and foremost, where if you have a quarterback who's capable of making the throws that Jade Maeva could make, and you have 2 receivers who are as talented as Lemon and Lane are, USC could score a touchdown, not at any moment, but they can go on a touchdown drive at any moment because of what they have with Lincoln Riley and just the skill that they possess. I want to give the offensive line credit too, but a big part of why USC is having so much of this success is because their elite players are playing at an elite level. And we saw that yesterday with Maeva not turning the ball over. Makai Lemon, 10 for 152 or 3 and a touchdown. Jacoby Lane doing his thing. He made a couple of great catches, and he had some plays where he didn't necessarily make the catch, but he was interfered with on one play that extended a USC drive, and then another that set up a touchdown. He is really just tough to cover, like Lemon in general, and even his plays where they draw a flag, like that's significant, and it's pretty much the same as a catch because it moves the ball down the field. So, yeah, I think that's a big part of what we're seeing with USC's success. The elite players that Lincoln Riley and that staff has been able to get to USC, they've been playing at an elite level. We have another call, Riley, if you're ready.
Yep.
We have Nick in Dallas. Nick, great to talk to you here. Keep it to 1 minute, please, if you can. Here we go. We got Nick here right now. How's it going, Nick?
Hey, thanks for getting me on. Thanks for taking my call. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep. We can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, I was really impressed with the resiliency of that game. They started off slow. I thought the rain slowed them down. I mean, who knew Iowa going into that game when it was going to rain, which I'm pretty sure the Hawkeyes probably thought it's to their advantage. I really thought they stayed calm under pressure. They came back in the second half, and I was really impressed with the defense, with the plays they made. Going into the game against Oregon, I believe we're going to win. I think Sewell made a good point in the postgame show. It depends on the physicality. I think the defense has to step up. And I thought Lincoln made a good point. Maybe this 6 urgency will give us something to in terms of like the advantage of going into this game. And let's not forget, I think USC is probably 2 questionable calls away from being undefeated. The call with Lennon passing on the rain against Notre Dame, and then the scoring 2 early against the Illini. But that's neither here nor there. But I feel like we're going to be okay going against Oregon. And I think the line is like 8 or 9. But I think, that being said, we're playing on house money. Nobody's giving SC a chance to win it for Oregon. And I think as long as we be physical against Oregon, we're going to be ready to win there. They know what they have to do, and I think we'll be okay. As long as the game is close, I feel like SC, we're going to go ahead being said, I thought the winning the game against Iowa, physical Iowa Hawkeyes team pressed us going into the game against Oregon, which these past 2 weeks, Oregon and USC played Iowa close. Now we're going to see the skill set on who's the more skilled between USC and Oregon going against the Ducks next Saturday. And I think the game is at noon. I was hoping it'd be a night game for a game like that, but I think it's noon or 12:30 on CBS. But I think we'll be okay. We'll be fine. We'll play our game, and let's go in and get the W and fight on, and let's show the country that USC's back and Lincoln around the edge. USC going in the right direction and fight on.
All right. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
So that's 3 calls. I think we've had 3 people say they're going to beat Oregon.
I know. I was going to say they're very hopeful.
I give USC a chance, but I think for this game, you just got to look at the matchup. And Oregon's offensive line, especially on the left side, it hurts that Emmanuel Pregnon's a part of it, but the way they run the ball and then the way that they, when they need it, are able to pass it, I just don't think it's a great matchup for USC's defense, especially if Kamari Ramsey and Bishop Fitzgerald aren't able to play after getting banged up against Iowa. So do I give USC a chance? Hell yeah, I do, after what I've seen the last 3 weeks. But we do have to factor in what the Trojans have looked like on the road this year, which hasn't been particularly good start to finish in any of their road games. So I do think it's a huge challenge. Obviously, the fact that they've won 3 in a row, this comeback win against Iowa is huge. The culture on the team is great. The buy-in is all there, but you got to have the players in these games to win the games. And if USC is down those 2 safeties, like I think Makai Lemon and Jacoby Lane and Maava, like I said earlier, they're making a lot of plays, and I like what I've seen from them, but I think it's a tough matchup, especially with just what Oregon has on the offensive and defensive line. But let's talk about that this week. We can still bask in this glory of an Iowa win. Seeing what Oregon did, though, against Iowa, how they were able to run the ball, and then seeing how USC struggled to run the ball at times, I just think it's kind of a different situation, and USC hasn't been great on the road. But again, let's cross that bridge when we get to it. I admire the passion of the fans and wanting to root for your team and think they have a chance. Like, again, I totally think they do, but I would not bet on that. So we can talk about that later this week. We got another call, though. Alan
right.
in St. Louis. Do you have the phone up, Riley? Thank you. Hello, Alan. You are
ready.
on Tunnel Vision. How's it going?
Hey guys, thanks for taking my call again. I just want to say kind of a change of pace here in this question, but I just want to say I'm pretty proud of the statement that our AD Jen Cohen made in the state of Troy a few days ago, and just looking out at the university and keeping the private equity interests away, that's one thing, but just defending our scheduling going forward, and I know it's really controversial to keep Notre Dame or to kick them off the schedule, but I mean, you just look at a season like this compared to our schedule to what other big brand Big Ten teams are up against. Our schedule just looks very different compared to Ohio State's and the Michigans. And it's unfortunate. You guys saw a little bit of that bias last week with the way that the media covered the fake punt. And I think that you're getting some of that again with Notre Dame kind of getting off the hook with getting one day knock Michigan off of their schedule. We're doing pretty much the exact same thing for very similar reasons. We're getting a different treatment. And then, Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan are looking out for themselves at the top of the Big Ten, and we're once again getting a lot of crap in the media about looking out for USC's interests. So it's just refreshing for someone who's been around the program and the school for 30 years to see the school finally sticking up for itself. So, yeah, I just want to throw that out there and get your thoughts. Thanks.
Thank you, Alan. I agree that the messaging is definitely different than what we've seen in the past from USC, and we've talked a lot about the Notre Dame game and the future of it. And when Jen Cohen lays it out like that, like a lot of fans have, like it makes sense where USC is the only school, I forget if she said in the Big Ten or the whole Power Four, to go on the road that late in the year against a power conference opponent. So she definitely made the case for USC wanting to schedule that game earlier in the year very well. And I definitely hear what she's saying. I'm wondering what now with the SEC going to 9 and then having a 10th game against a Power 4 opponent, that rule and that conference. Look, the fact that USC's other Power 4 team is Notre Dame. Like, the rivalry is great, but that's a tough break because Notre Dame is always pretty good. So, like, who will Georgia schedule? Who will Alabama schedule? Will they try to schedule a marquee game, or will they schedule, off the top of my head, like a North Carolina or a Wake Forest? I think they played this week, and Bill Belichick, I saw, didn't shake the Wake Forest coach's hand. But two teams that maybe on a given year are pretty good, but not the historical power that you're thinking of. And not that what other teams have to do affects USC, but I'm wondering if we're going to get some movement back to where it's not just USC scheduling this really tough game late in the year, because the SEC now does have to play that 10th one. But to Alan's point, yes, I get what Jens Cohen was saying. I like it. And let's face it, if USC didn't play Notre Dame this year and played a cupcake, they would have a really good chance at the college football playoff. So that one stings. But the traditionalist in me, like, what happened to USC anytime, anywhere? Like, it doesn't matter who we're going to play. We're going to go out and win. Like, I don't love that. Not that they're ducking it, because they are trying to compromise, and I think compromise right now is important, but like, I just don't want the game to go away. And even if it's in USC's best interest not to play it, I hope that just the tradition of the rivalry and the history of the game is enough to where, yes, it might not be what's best for you, but like, it's what's best for the college football, I think. So I don't know. But some fans are on the other side of that, and I get it. You want the easiest path to make the playoff, but I'd rather the team be battle-tested and just have that game. That's a game I look forward to every year.
I agree, Connor. It is an insane rivalry, but also you don't, or you shouldn't, in my opinion, curate a schedule to match your team's level. You should raise your team to match whatever schedule. And I'm not saying USC isn't doing that. They're clearly doing that with all of the changes they made and the improvement this season. But handle what you can handle. Like, go out there, get battle-tested, like you said. Of course, the fans want to see the rivalry.
And if you're building this thing the way it looks like USC's building it, and you're getting
problem.
these recruiting classes in, then play the game. But again, I understand the other side of it. So it's hard to have like a take like, oh, USC is not in a good spot to be doing what they're doing, that scheduling it earlier. No, that's wrong. Like, I think that's right. And I just hope that a compromise can be reached, because it does make sense. And I've been pretty... What am I trying to say? I've said it all along that if the game went away, like, Notre Dame would be fine, and people don't like that. They'll schedule another game, and they'll still play 12, and whatever happens will happen. I get it. Like, you're probably not scheduling someone as good as USC, so I hear that, but I don't really think anyone needs the game more than the other. But with USC being in the Big Ten and Notre Dame being an independent, that certainly changes the equation. So I definitely get that. We have another call here.
Alrighty.
The name didn't come through on our screener, but this person is from Newport. So if that is you, you are on television right now. Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. What's your name?
Dave from Newport.
Hello, Dave. You're on. How's it going?
Good. How you guys doing?
Good.
Good.
Hey, I just want to put a little input for the season and the Trojans, the fans. I feel like we're having a great year. I know we have a great incoming class coming in. The wins at Nebraska, that was a tough place to play. I watched a game from here. I did not go. I typically go to some away games, but that game and the game the other day, it was just amazing. I mean, the guys played so hard. And Riley, I don't know why Riley is being given a hard time. He's just a classy coach. He's just a great guy, classy coach, and knows his offense. So we have to give him some time. I don't know why anybody would be saying that, but most of the time, what I've seen on the sites, it's usually the Oklahoma or the Oregon fans that are getting on there, saying negative things, trying to distract or what he's doing at our school. So basically, I played sports back in the 80s at USC, and I was around Anthony Munoz, Ronnie Lott, Charles White, all the guys that played hard when they played Alabama, and they had a lot of big games back then. And I just saw the same thing yesterday. They put it on the line this weekend against Iowa. And I think they're going to beat Oregon. I mean, it's going to be
All right, 4 for 4 on the callers thinking USC will beat Oregon. I love the confidence, Dave.
Yeah, and I love the way the fans are coming out. Obviously, to get the older SC fans into the Coliseum on a rainy day is kind of hard, but I think the true fans have always been there, and I think they had a lot of great support this year. And then I think it's just building. I can feel it building right now.
Thank you, Dave, for the call. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
So as for why was Riley getting crap? Well, he wasn't winning, and what he was brought here to do, have a good offense, didn't happen last year. So let's not try to talk about the past differently because they're having a good year this year. Why was he under some pressure? It's because when he started, the defense was terrible, and then last year he didn't recruit at the level people wanted, and the offense wasn't as good. Now, though, winning cures all, and that's why I think if they go on to make the playoff, that's enough for me to totally buy in with him and say give him a new contract if that's what he's looking for, which it sounds like behind the scenes he might be. So that's just how we gauge this. If you win, we're going to give you credit. If you don't, the fans get mad and they want you fired and they think you play a soft brand of defense and they're going to get someone else in here to try to do a better job than you did. So I appreciate the call, Dave. USC, they're clearly trending in the right direction. Things are good, but why were fans not happy with him and why was he getting some flack, especially earlier in the year? It's because for all the reasons I just said, the last couple of seasons did not go the way you would expect, but this season is, and that's the scoreboard. And we judge off of right now. And USC's 8-2, they have a chance to make the college football playoff. And this year, he's certainly doing a better job than we've seen the last couple, which is significant. We do have another call, Riley, if you can believe it. We have Dr. K, one of our favorites. So we'll pod him up here. Dr. K, hello. How are you?
Hi, Riley, and hi, Connor. This is going to be under a minute.
Okay.
So 2 quick questions. Can you analyze the penalties that we had, how many, and what they were? And also, we're always talking about our safeties, and we've had a lot of problems there. People are getting injured. But why can't they, who is the coach, and why can't they teach them to turn around when there's a pass? Real quick example, today the Bears are playing the Vikings, and it was one of the Bears safety, turns around at the right moment, towards the end zone and intercepts the pass. So why don't we see more of that? Thanks a lot, guys. I'll hang up. And by the way, Ventura County, that's where we are.
Okay. Thank
you.
you. Dr. K. As for his first question, USC had 3 total penalties, which that's a great number. One was pretty costly, the ineligible receiver or ineligible man downfield on Killian O'Connor. That negated a big third down for USC. There was also a holding call on Devin Tompkins and then pass interference on DeCarlos Nicholson. So those were the 3. Of course, the laptop over here is dying, but I hope that answers your question. And then the second thing about the defensive backs turning around, frustrating, but I thought USC safeties yesterday played tremendously well. Christian Pierce, Kennedy Urlacher for most of that game. The corners, yes, Braylon Connolly was in coverage on that first touchdown for Iowa. DeCarlos Nicholson had the pass interference where he didn't turn around the way you would expect. And that has been a consistent theme this season, but USC's been able to overcome that. And the fact that USC hasn't played a really prolific passing attack, Notre Dame we thought was going to be better, but even in that game they struggled. That's allowed the corners to grow. And I do think the beginning of that game yesterday was a little frightening for the defensive backs, but they made adjustments and it's not going to be perfect, but I have a lot more confidence in USC's DBs than I did in the middle to early portion of the season. So sometimes that's just where you have to be at, where they're not perfect. They're going to make some mistakes. We know that, but are they getting better? That's how you have to judge it. And I do think they are.
Mm-hmm. They are improving, but I think they also realize that as much as they've improved up to this point, you can't start slow in the first half. Christian Pierce said that after the game on Saturday. He's like, when we play really good teams, they're going to take advantage of that. So they understand that. Hopefully that improvement reaches starting out faster, starting out like they have been closing the games. We'll see this weekend, but I mean, it's obvious. When you're starting slow, that's something that needs to be improved on. They worked on something. Now the job's not done.
No, and I'm with you. but I go back to what I said on instant analysis. You can start slow and win, then it's better than starting fast and losing. So
This is true.
wins are always the most important. And against an Oregon team, can they afford to start slow and go down 2 scores on the road in that hostile environment? Probably not. So that's a huge focal point this week. I do think the game being at 12:30 instead of a night game helps USC a little bit. I don't know how crazy Autzen will be early. Like, it's going to be a hard place to play. I'm not saying anything to the contrary. But if it was a night game, you got all day to drink, you're going to be a little crazier. I do think earlier will potentially help USC, and they're looking for all the advantages they can get. Do we have some questions, Riley? I think we can get to that,
Yes.
but I know it might be a little challenging because on Sunday nights we can't always get the YouTube questions in on our back-end software, but I know you're doing a good job of trying to get that, so
Yeah, I'm going through.
Take it away.
I've seen a couple just asking about Kamari Ramsey.
no update from me on him. We'll try to get that on Tuesday, the next time Lincoln Riley talks to us. I'd say right now, the fact that he didn't return, of course, isn't good. I'd put it at 50-50 for Oregon, but I have no information on that, so we'll just have to see. It's a shame that both Ramsey and Fitzgerald went out. It was great to see Urlacher and Christian Pierce play as well as they did, but you're going to need all hands on deck this week.
Yeah.
Elijah Page going down too, that one hurts as well.
A lot of people want to know what Lincoln Riley was saying after the penalty at the end of the game when he was yelling at the Iowa
So
sideline.
I saw Shotgun talk about this, and I think he's right. And I don't even know if I know all the information, so I hope I'm not spreading fake news out there. But a lot of people think Riley was like saying MF, right? Like victory, MF. I think it might have been like victory formation because USC was about to kneel out a win. I'd have to go back and look. I haven't had a chance to rewatch the game yet. I do that later in the week, but I don't think he would yell MF at the opposing sideline, but that's potentially what it looked like it was. So I'm sorry. Again, I'm 0 for 2 here. I don't have good answers for the people. I'm not totally sure on that, but it might not be the MF. Shotgun had a tweet about it. You can go look at that.
Biggie question. Can you clarify 2 things they didn't cover on TV?
Yes.
1, who was the hold on that negated the strip sack? And 2, what was the penalty against Iowa bench that effectively ended the game?
Not sure on the first one. I think they said 15, and Anthony Beavers is 15 on defense, and he was out. So maybe it was 25, which is Marcellus Williams. And when there's holding, a lot of times it is in that defensive backfield. So that would be my guess. Again, I'd have to go back and look. I don't know that for sure. One thing that we saw was the penalty. Someone thought the Iowa coach tried to call a timeout when they didn't have any, but I think Kirk Ferentz was asked about it after the game, and he said that the assistant coach just crossed a line to go onto the field that he shouldn't have, and maybe he had been warned before by that referee, and the guy crossed the line, and he was just sick of it, and he called it. I'm not exactly sure, but that's what the Iowa head coach said, so I would take his word for it. He didn't talk about having a timeout when they didn't. Maybe he's just covering for his guy, though, so that might be 0 for 4 on these questions. Let's keep them coming.
All right. Jasper Smith. Should Devin Tompkins play at defensive end some against Oregon, given their prowess for running the ball? Tompkins got blocked to the 3rd level on a couple running plays against Iowa.
I wasn't saying yes to that second part. I was saying yes to the first part about him playing defensive end. That was one of the key switches in the game where USC had Tompkins play on the edge, and that led to defensive improvement in that second half. So I think that's something that USC will use moving forward, where having both Cameron Fountain and Anthony Lucas or one of those guys and Braylon Shelby, it can be good in passing situations, but when you're Iowa and it's going to be a lot of short passes, a lot of running the ball, just having more size is huge. And that's a role that I think as time goes on, we could see Jakeem Stewart play as well, that edge rusher, middle of the defensive line hybrid like Tompkins has played, but that was huge. And I do think him playing defensive end changed the game, and that's going to be something USC sticks with moving forward.
Wow, Connor, you're so good at this because my next question is from Andrew, and he's asking, will Jakeem with Jakeem clearly playing, expectations you think Riley might look at a true freshman getting on the field more next year?
Well, if they land these high-profile guys, which they have a bunch of high-profile guys in this next class, yes, absolutely. Mark Bowman, with all due respect to Lake McCree, imagine throwing the ball to Mark Bowman on one of those short tight end passes and seeing what he can do. I think he's going to be in the mix. I look at a guy like Kenai Pepe. If he has a really good spring, the fact that he has so much potential, and yes, as an offensive lineman, it can be hard to come in and play right away, but that's a guy, a 5-star offensive tackle. He's someone who I think has a great chance. And maybe if Trent Mosley comes in, we saw what Tanuk Hines was able to do this year. He's a guy who's having a ton of success at Santa Margarita. I look at him, and in the middle of that defensive line, USC is adding Jamian Winfield from Texas, as well as Tom from Mater Dei. Maybe one of those guys impresses. So absolutely. And the 2026 class, it won't completely impact USC for a couple years to potentially 3 years down the line. But when you recruit at that level and you have some of the really high-profile guys that USC does have, of course some impact guys will emerge, like Tanuk Hines did this year, like Jakeem Stewart has done this year. I absolutely think that's the case.
All right. Jasper also wants to know, say USC loses to Oregon but finishes 9-3, what bowl game are we looking at?
I haven't looked at the latest projections, but based on how the last 2 years have gone, I would be really surprised if they played in one of those ones before Christmas. I see them, especially if they're 9-3, being in that one of those games from like the 26th to New Year's Eve, and we would have to see. The Alamo Bowl was a popular one before, but hey, let's see what they can do before we talk bowl projections. Maybe they're playing in the playoff.
Well, I apologize. I've missed some super chats.
Oh, I missed them too.
As I was looking at our Google Doc of questions, let me find my
There we go. Cha-ching.
199 from Alex. I don't know if I can put it on the... I don't think I can.
But you can read it.
It's just like an emoji.
Oh, well,
it's
thanks. Thanks for
like
the
a
money.
little fox with hearts. Like, thank you. And then
That's funny.
there was one from Jimmy Page. Says message deleted. Okay. Well, 199 anyway. So
Thanks for the money.
yeah. Well, I don't know. Well,
Is that it for questions?
yeah. Try to scroll through Facebook. Let me just double check.
If anyone has any last minute ones,
yeah,
now
drop
would be
them
the
in.
time.
We talked about Jen Cohen and her comments about the Independent. Just a comment.
I see some debate in the chat about the SEC, I think, and the Big Ten. I do think top to bottom the SEC is better than the Big Ten. But I have seen, too, when I've tweeted USC's 2 wins away from the playoff, that might not be 100% true. I guess they could technically be left out at 10-2. But that would be a real shame. If they go 8-1 in the conference and just have losses to Notre Dame and Illinois with a win over Oregon and all those other wins, and they don't get in, then what are we doing expanding the playoff? The third place Big Ten team with 1 loss and 1 non-conference loss, if they don't get in, that I think would be a joke. So,
Well, that would take Oregon.
yeah,
right?
USC would go ahead of Oregon,
Yeah.
absolutely.
If they win.
Thanks to a head-to-head win,
Yeah.
especially at their place. Yep.
Um.
We had a question,
Let's
too, about
see.
Wayman Jordan.
Oh yeah, I was gonna bring that up because he was
Questionable, but he didn't dress. I think there's a chance he plays against Oregon, but at this point, I would still be surprised. If he had dressed last week, where he still maybe wasn't going to be used, but if you're in pads, there's a chance you go out in the game. The fact that it looked like they listed him as questionable in case there was a crazy situation like with Brian Jackson where they needed him to throw on the pads at halftime, that doesn't exactly make me the most confident that he'll play in Oregon. But his whole thing was, if we're playing for something at the end of the year and I'm healthy enough,
Yeah.
he was going to play. So if that's against Oregon, great. I don't quite know if he's ready yet, but the fact that he was questionable, that's a step in the right direction. And I don't rule it out. I'll say that. I don't know for sure, but I don't rule it out.
I also wanted to note, I think USC total rushing yards are either 106 or 108. 106 on Saturday, and in the past 4 games, King Miller has been averaging 121 by himself. So going into it, you would think all the rain, you're going to keep it on the ground. But as we talked about, Jacoby Lane, Makai Lemon, especially Makai Lemon, just what they can do in the air.
Well, and that it's matchup dependent, where
Right.
Iowa has a good run defense.
Yeah.
And let's face it, with King Miller and Brian Jackson, 2 running backs who are young and talented, like I like those guys, but where's the strength of USC's offense, especially against a defense that is very good at stopping the run? It's through the air with your luxury players, your high-profile guys, whatever you want to call them, your blue chips, Makai Lemon, Jacoby Lane, and Jade Mayava throwing the ball. So the fact that USC's run game, was it great against Iowa? No, but was it good enough? Absolutely. Where King Miller still made some nice plays. Brian Jackson scored the 2 touchdowns. I didn't love what Jade Mayava did on the ground in this game, but hey, that keeps the defense honest, and maybe that'll open some things up moving forward. I'd give the running game a B- in this game, and that was enough.
Mayava had that 20-yard scramble on the 3rd and 1.
True. You're right. He did have, that was a great play. In my head, I was thinking of some of the other ones that weren't as great, but You're right. That was a big one.
Wow. Overall, not just one play decides it. I think that's it. Andrew asking, why does it seem DeCarlos has been picked on recently in the last couple of games?
I don't know about the last couple games. I've thought he has played pretty good football overall. I know he had that pass interference against Iowa. Maybe I'm missing something obvious, but Braylon Connolly was in coverage on the one passing touchdown, and then the other passing touchdown was the wide receiver pass where Carlos Nicholson wasn't in that area, and USC was just fooled. That Eric Gentry was technically in coverage, but that was just a well-executed play. So, I mean, is he getting picked on a little bit? I guess, but I think he's your best corner, and so you got to just kind of live and die with what he does. And the fact that he didn't start, and Lincoln Riley said it was a coach's decision, that's not great, but he ended up playing a lot, and he talked after the game, so I anticipate him still being a huge part of the defense moving forward. I see a lot of people complain about him on social media, and it's not like there's some great option, some all-American cornerback who USC isn't playing. Like, he's the best they have, and I think he's getting better, and I've liked what I've seen from him overall. So I think he's getting a bad rap a little bit. I like DeCarlos Nicholson, what I've seen from him lately.
All right. Anything else before we wrap up? I think that'll do it on the questions. We have a super chat right before the bell. How that Urlacher kid, dad taught him well, tackled pushing receiver out of bounds, high IQ play.
Huge play. One of the plays of the game, as we talked about at the beginning. Kid's got some good genes, obviously, but in that game, the fact that he stepped in and just played really well, that was great to see. And it was interesting that I felt like Iowa had its most success passing when Bishop Fitzgerald and Kamari Ramsey were in. And then they go down, and Christian Pierce is in, and so is Kennedy Urlacher, and USC does a really good job defending the pass. So sometimes football is interesting in that way, but those guys answered the bell really, really well. And yeah, Kennedy Urlacher, I mean, that just speaks to how well this USC program is going right now, and not like the team. I mean, Lincoln Riley's program, where you can be a guy who he wasn't expected to play on defense at all, and they had an injury. He goes in and he plays really well. That says so much about where Lincoln Riley has this team, and that's why I wrote that story after the game, because that's not lost on me, where other teams around the country have a key injury, and then it's like, oh my God, they really missed this guy. USC, of course, did they miss Kamari Ramsey? Yes, but they still won. They shut out Iowa in the second half with some second-unit guys out there, and that's massive.
Yep, DeCarlos credited them at the end of the game. They stepped up. They knew your time is going to come at some point. You just have to be ready for it, and they were. Is that all we got?
I think so. And this show,
all
we're
right.
coming up on the hour. I think 60-minute post-game show, just the two of us. That's not bad.
No technical difficulties. The YouTube thing, that's not our fault. We've been trying. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But we appreciate the comments anyway, and hopefully we got to your question. All of the live calls, lovely as always, and the super chats. Great show, Connor.
Thank you, Riley. Great to be with you. I hope people enjoyed it. I know we do our instant analysis on Wednesdays, but this is Sunday, and we're doing tunnel vision. I love it.
Yep. So I'll be back on Wednesday, and then the rest of the week. We
got Riley talking on Trojans Live, not you, Lincoln Riley, tomorrow night. So I'll write a story from that. Tuesday practice, Wednesday practice. Lincoln Riley will talk on Thursday again via Zoom, so we'll be on that. We'll do Tunnel Vision previewing Oregon Thursday night. There is a men's basketball game Thursday night, so you might not see me here for that preview show. Then the big game Saturday. We'll be back on Sunday with Tunnel Vision, and then there's only one more game left in the regular season after that. Where did the time go? But
I don't know.
That's the schedule, and my message to USC fans, this is the biggest game for USC since that Pac-12 championship game in 2022, Riley's first year. Just embrace this week. This is going to be a great week where USC has so much to play for. Look at our practice coverage. Go to the website. Just swim in the success right now. Things are good right now. Enjoy it. Don't try to nitpick. Leave that for me. I'll do the nitpicking. But seriously, USC's in a great spot, and this week should be really fun because of the opportunity that they have.
Take it all in. Last road game, and then USC hosting UCLA for the final game of the regular season. But that is all we have for Tunnel Vision. USC 26-21 against Iowa at home on Saturday. I'm Riley Sager. He's Connor Morrissette. Thanks again.